Welcome to Sir Lancelot's Real Estate Roundtable, your guide to mastering the realm of real estate in Central East Florida. I am Sir Lancelot Leonard, ready to uncover the secrets of seller strategies, home staging, mortgage mastery, and more. From Daytona Beach to Cocoa Beach, Lake County to St. Augustine, join me as we navigate the intricacies of real estate. As the leader of the Sir Lancelot Group at Florida Homes Realty and Mortgage, I'm here to arm you with knowledge and innovation, whether you're a seasoned homeowner or a first-time buyer, unveiling the kingdom of real estate, one roundtable at a time. Welcome back to the Real Estate Roundtable, where the deals are real, the insights are golden. Today, we've got a powerhouse guest joining us, Alberto Nikodimov. Sorry about that if I'm butchering your name, Alberto. The founder of Memories Vacation Home Management, based in the heart of Central Florida's short-term rental capital, Kissimmee. Alberto has made a name for himself by helping investors turn ordinary vacation homes into ROI machines. With a sharp eye for opportunity, a deep understanding of dynamic pricing, and a passion for guests' experience, Alberto is the go-to expert when it comes to maximizing profit in Orlando's booming vacation rental market. Whether you're a seasoned investor or just eyeing your first Airbnb, this is one episode you can't afford to miss. Alberto, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Lancelot. Pleasure being here. Thank you for having me.
So, Alberto, take us back. Before Memories Vacation Home Management was born, what sparked your passion for real estate and short-term rentals?
All right, that's a great question. I'll take it back a bit without trying to talk for too long. As soon as I got out of college, I graduated in the UK. You're from around the same part of the world. So when I graduated, I always had something pulling me towards the US, and I always wanted to get into a profession where the amount of money you can make is not limited. You're not capped to a certain amount. So for me, it was either real estate, the stock market, or insurance. And insurance in the stock market doesn't really have the best reputation, in my opinion. So I thought real estate is a great place where I can actually provide value for the people that I work with. And I started going on a hunt to get an internship position in a real estate company. And luckily, I was able to land in a short-term rental company in Miami. That was my first ever position. They sponsored me for my visa, and my journey started there. I started as an intern, so very, very low. I was doing all the things that nobody wants to do in the short-term rental industry in a property management company. Um, from dealing with issues, clogged toilets, helping guests that are missing supplies, anything that you can imagine. And I started from the very bottom, and shortly they saw how motivated I was. And about 2 years later, I ended up pretty much running the place alongside with the owners. Um, then COVID hit, and it was just time for a change for me. I learned a lot about short-term rentals, but then I was recruited by one of the biggest long-term rental property management companies here in Orlando. And I started working for them as a business development manager. I was pretty much in charge of bringing new owners to them and on the marketing side, and I did really well there. We doubled in size in about 2 years, which was great. From 300 and something properties, we went to 700 properties. And I still love the short-term rental industry. Just I couldn't get out of my system. I really like the short-term rental industry, so I kept investing in short-term rentals myself, keeping an eye on the market, reading a lot about it. And eventually, after had few of my own, and I did some subleasing as well. If you want to explain what that is for the listeners, we can do that later. I decided to open Memories Vacation Home Management, and the reason why I decided to do that is because of my love for the industry, and at the same time, we were referring people left and right to different management companies, and they were not really being treated very well. First of all, they had bad experiences. Some property managers were running their investments down to the ground. They were not very professional. They didn't really have a good understanding of numbers and the investment part of the real estate. They were concentrating mostly in hospitality. So for us, we're all about trust, transparency, and profitability, and we made a product which kind of bulked everything into one, where an investor can come in and have a full service from the very beginning of starting to search for the product with an agent like you, for example, to the very end where we run the property for a few years, is doing very well, and maybe we sell with a profit and we reinvest in something bigger. So this is pretty much my story. Sorry for talking for so long.
That's awesome. No, no, you're good. You're good. I like you unpacking that for us. Could you identify, um, or how do you identify the market needs? Could you elaborate on that a little bit? Like looking for
Sure.
properties, etc. Where should I invest my money, man? Like that's the biggest question always.
So it really depends, right? Because you know how things are in this industry. People have different goals. It really depends on the investor. What is your goal? Are you looking to purchase something purely for cash flow, or is it more of an appreciation play, or is it a mix of everything, or are you trying to reduce your taxes by having a short-term rental because that really helps? What is really your goal? Are you trying to buy something in a certain area where you can use it for a second home for a month or two out of the year, and then the rest of the time rent it out and just have it pay for itself? It's You have so much flexibility with short-term rentals that it really depends. The right answer for me might not be the right answer for you or the other person. Now, we really try to analyze the individual needs of the person and try to guide them towards a product that's suitable for what they're looking for. Does that make sense?
That makes sense to me. Yeah, of course. I totally get it. It's really personalized. Um, Risks. Tell me a little bit about what risks you took in the early stages of your career.
Lots of them, to be honest. I came here from Europe, uh, just finishing college, came here by myself. Nobody was here in the US. Pretty much my back was to the wall from day one. I had no other option on really going back, so I had to make it. And a fun story was when I was recruited by my first company in Miami. They pretty much gave me a very modest salary as an intern, which was fine by me. I was there for the experience, not so much for the money, but I still had to pay rent and be able to make a living. And they didn't tell me that, when I get there, they told me that I'll be able to earn some commissions through helping bring new people in and things like that, or perhaps even get my real estate license. But nobody ever told me, let's say, to get your real estate license takes like 2 to 3 months, and then you need time to make a deal. And I had to learn so much on my feet. So that's the biggest risk that I've taken on a personal level. Everything ended up working out and really built me as a character. But on a real estate level, just to give you another comparison, my first ever deal was very interesting. The first ever short-term rental property that I purchased. I'll quickly share what I did there. Um, I purchased a duplex, and the goal was to house hack. I'll just explain what house hacking is, just in case our listeners don't really
Sure.
know what that is. So, house hacking is when you purchase a house, you live in the one unit, and then you rent out the other portion of the house, and that should cover your mortgage expenses and hopefully leave you a little bit of profit. So you pretty much live for free without having to pay mortgage um, or rent. So I did that with that duplex, and I purchased in Orange City, Florida, which is a small town up north, close to Sanford. Not really much going on. It's not a vacation rental mega. And all the people I was telling them about what I'm about to do, they're like, "You're nuts. Who's gonna book an Airbnb in Orange City?" But I'm a big numbers guy and I do a lot of research. So I run the numbers multiple times, worst case scenarios, and everything was just screaming that this is going to work out. So I ended up purchasing the place. And another thing that I did, I purchased with an FHA loan. So I purchased with a 3.5% down. And since I had my real estate license, I was representing myself too. And I negotiated the closing costs to be covered by the seller. So I pretty much bought that duplex for $0 out of pocket. Yeah, pretty much nothing. And I had to gut the place, renovate it, so I immediately increased the value of the place. And then I lived there for about 2.5 years, and it started covering my mortgage from month one after the renovations were done. So now I end up moving out of that place and still covers the mortgage. Now I'm renting the other side as well. is cash flowing about $3,000 a month.
Nice. That's
So
a good cash flow, bro.
it's infinite return because I didn't put any money into the deal initially. So yeah, it's great. I got my money back and the place appreciated a lot. So going back to this, everybody was telling me that I'm crazy and no one's gonna rent an Airbnb in Orange City, but I run the numbers, everything worked out well, and then the people who were saying that was crazy were asking for help to buy something similar in the same area. So that was a cool risk that ended up paying off.
That's a good feeling, though, when the people that doubt you come back and say, "Hey, can you help me do what you did?" Because then you're like, "Oh, you learned the lesson now, didn't you?"
Yeah, yeah.
I
A
did
funny
similar.
thing, yeah, go ahead, sorry.
I did a fourplex in Daytona when we moved up here from Miami because my wife was pregnant, and I was like, "Okay, she's gonna have a baby." In our culture, where we come from in Europe, the mom stays home with the baby for
Yeah,
years. So I was like, okay, I got to step up to the plate and gonna provide for the family, and so she could manage the household and take care of the kids or the kid at that time. And I was like, what can I substitute her income with? And it was a rental property. I got the property for I stole it 168. It's worth a half a million right now, and it's generating over $5,000 a month. And when we
wow,
got it, it was $1,800 a month was the rental income. So,
that's crazy.
and that's 5 or 6 years down the road now. I replaced the roof, I renovated the units, I put Section 8 tenants in there, so it's less maintenance, less headaches, mailbox money.
Guaranteed check from the government. Yeah,
Yes, pretty much. And I think we did a great decision by buying that property and keeping it and going with it. And it's also in an opportunity zone, which you know gives me after 10 years, it's zero capital gains tax on it.
yeah, yeah. That's amazing. Here's a quick question for you, just related to your story. How was the portion of convincing your wife to live in a multifamily there, or did you not live in there? You
We
just
didn't
you
house
just
hack.
rented out.
We rented the
Okay,
whole because
okay.
it's in the hood. So it was like first we thought we would, but then we
Yeah,
realized that everybody kept on telling us, "You just don't want to live there. You don't want to live there. There's a lot of drugs. There's a lot of bad things going on in that neighborhood. You don't want to live there." And so we rented a 2 bedroom condo, not far from it, for like $1,000 a month, which is
yeah.
insanely low compared to our rent in Miami. We're coming from
Oh,
1,800
right.
for a
Yeah,
1 bedroom to 1,000 for a 2 bedroom with a laundry inside and everything. I'm like, that is awesome. They have a tennis
yeah.
court right outside, and they have a pool and a gym. And I'm like, this is good. So I think it took us about 4 or 5 months to renovate all 4 units, or three out of the 4 units. We kept one of the tenants because he was always cash on time, never bothered us. We raised him a little bit in the beginning and then
Mm-hmm.
kept him. I think we just renovated that apartment about 2 years ago. So he was there for 3, 4 years. He passed away too bad, and the wife couldn't keep up with it, so they moved out. But then we went in and renovated it, and during the years, it always covered the mortgage. The mortgage was really low because 168. And then
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think after renovations, all the interest rates came down like massively. So we refinanced. We did a Burr kind of deal with it.
yeah.
And we pulled out about all our investment, all our cash investment of the property, like 75 or $80,000 that we put into the property. We pulled all that cash out,
You
refinanced, and now I
reinvested.
think we owe about the same as what the original purchase price was, 168 on the property. But it's worth $500,000 and it's generating
Yeah,
over five
yeah.
thousand dollars a month. So now we're in like a golden zone of, hey, when the 10 year comes, that's that's a good sale. It's a 10 cap, you know.
So that's something you probably never sell because it's so good. There is no point selling it. The more it appreciates, it's just another initiative for you to maybe when the rates come down a little bit lower, cash out again and go and do the same thing with another property rather than sell it. Because why sell at
Possibility,
this
yeah,
price?
that's a high possibility too. But we do need the rates to come down a lot more because I think we have a
Yeah,
3.5 on that right now. So three
right.
and a half is hard to beat, especially with insurance rates going up the way they are.
Yeah, right now it's pretty tough. But going back for a second before I move on to the next question, funny story. We went to see that duplex the first time before I buy it. It was me, my sister, and my ex-girlfriend. going to see it, and my ex-girlfriend won't even get out of the car. She's like, "You crazy thing about buying something like this?"
No, I mean, my wife was there 9 months pregnant, cleaning units with me and helping me renovate, with a big belly. She was down on her floors, scrubbing floors and everything while, I
That's
was
to sh
finishing up. That's that's where we come from. It's like there's no
yeah.
joke about that. We hustle.
That's to show you how important is the partner that you pick. I think that's much more important than selecting any investment property. The investment that you make in the person who's going to be next to you is probably the biggest thing you can possibly invest in, and is the most important decision in your life.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. Before every successful man, there is a really strong woman behind them. Usually, I would say. Not at
Yep.
your age, maybe, but when you get older, you probably. So, next question is we're gonna get into some challenges. Okay, you've now helped so many property owners turn vacation homes into top tier performers. What's the secret sauce behind spotting a high return property?
Right. So you've heard the saying in real estate, you make the money when you buy, not when you sell, right? So that's the most important thing. You have to buy smart. You have to buy the right property with the right location where the numbers really make sense. And you should never run the numbers on the best case scenario, even a good case scenario. You should run the numbers in a very pessimistic way, very conservative way. If the year is horrible and second year is horrible and third year is horrible and fourth year is horrible, this thing is still going to cash flow. If you do it that way, you're not scared. You go in and you're confident, and then if you have a good year, you make great money. If you have a great year, you make amazing money. But if you have a so-so year or a bad year, you're still cash flow positive. You can hold on to the asset. Where right now, what we're seeing in this industry, especially in the Central Florida market, a lot of people purchased stupid in 2023. 2020, end of 2022, 2023, they bought at the very, very peak of the market. They were basing their rental numbers on the performance of the properties in year 2021 and 2022 post-COVID, where the only two states that were open for vacation rentals were Texas and Florida. So everyone was coming down here and spending money like crazy, where we were advising people to base their numbers on 2018, 2019, which was a normal year.
Yeah.
And the difference was huge. For example, in 2023, I'll just give you a quick example. 5-bedroom home was making close to 100,000. In 2018 was making about 50, 55,000, 60,000, same home. So if you do your numbers on 100,000, and you're 40K down in the first year, second year, third year, most likely you're going to be losing money. If you had based your numbers on the 2018, 2019 with that revenue in mind, if you make 100,000, great, you're good. But if you make 60,000 in gross revenue, you can still cover your expenses and be up. So this is really the biggest thing. For me, I'm a big numbers guy, as you probably noticed. You really need to identify the right property, run the numbers, and then after, once you know that numbers make sense, you have that range of revenue that you'll be in between on a bad year versus good year. And again, even a bad year still works for you. You're still cash flow positive. Then the next step is really concentrating on the guest experience and making sure this is not just a house that they'll sleep in. This is really an experience and something that is worth paying for, worth talking about, worth coming back to. And this really just helps boost your investment even further. And when you buy a short-term rental, it's really more as a business. So it's like buying a restaurant. Take some time to get some reviews, some people in to spread the word around it, and the first and second year it takes some time to build up, but third, fourth, fifth years we really see the fruits of your labor if you do things right. Does that answer your question?
That
Or am
does
I
answer my question.
being
That's a great answer, by the way. So, walk us through some of your strategies and tools or gut instincts, when you do these analyses and finding properties and how you do those and what do you use to identify these?
right? So it's really about trying to avoid relying on a gut instinct, in my opinion. It's really more about being solid with the numbers because numbers never lie. So, and that's part of a big problem in our industry. A lot of these other competitors of ours will bring you in there as a client and they'll say, hey, you just need to buy any property and spend 150,000 in decorations and renovations and make it amazing with themed rooms of Disney, Mickey Mouse, SpongeBob, and no matter where it is, no matter how much you buy for it, will do great. That's one of the worst things that you can advise someone. First of all, because you don't just have the capital investment of purchasing the property, but a huge investment in the decorations, which doesn't really improve the value of the property too much compared to, like, let's say, a full reno on a residential home. So the right way to do it, in my opinion, is again to go back to what are the goals of the investor? What is he looking for? Then once you identify that clearly, let's go and find you a property that works, and let's find you a property that has a proven track record. If this property does not have a proven track record, look at the neighbor and the neighbor next door and the neighbor next door and get the average out of them. Then get the top tier properties, get the bottom tier properties, and see based on, okay, if we buy this property and we make it look as good as the top five competitors, and we have a good property management in place, we're most likely going to be around that range. Does that make sense? Yes or no? That's really the way we approach things. And this really helps you as an advisor to sleep better at night. Secondly, as a property manager, you have a product that's easier to manage. The expectations are set from the very beginning. So, if they hit the goals that they have, they'll be happy. If they do much better, they'll be even happier. But you're never going to let your client down and under deliver to what you promised.
Yeah, that makes sense. And talking about tools, do you guys use like airdna.co and stuff like that, or do you guys have something else more cooler
Yeah.
up your sleeves?
So we use a lot of tools, to be honest. AirDNA, I've never really been a huge fan of it. It's very vague and it just bulks data together and kind of like spits it out, and you have to dig through it to find the real information. We are using Price Labs. They actually released a great tool about 2 or 3 months ago, which does something very similar to AirDNA, for example. So Price Labs, first of all, is the software for dynamic pricing that we use and is the leader in our industry. And then the tool that they create is really cool because it pulls data from Airbnb, VRBO, HomeAway, Booking.com, from the neighbors, and it tells you this property which is across the street from you, in the last 365 days, we're estimating based on the real numbers pulled from Airbnb, VRBO, Booking.com, they'd made between, let's say, 50,000 to 75,000. And then it tells you it gives you a real breakdown. So it tells you who are your competitors, are they using dynamic pricing software? Are they not? How is their house looking? How are their reviews? Are they professionally managed? Are they self-managed? And then it really pretty much shows you transparently how much they've made in the last 365 days. So if you dig in, it's very hard to make a mistake. You'll know what the range is before purchasing the property.
That is a great tool, my friend. Yeah, I've been using AirDNA here and there. They're expensive too. Now they went only zip code for like $600 a year. So it used to be
Yeah.
$600 for like a county or something, and now it's $600 for a zip code. And I'm like, that's expensive if you're not like in Kissimmee, let's say, or
Yeah.
like you're like in my area where it's not like who everybody wants to do short-term rentals here, you know?
Well, now you have me, and as an agent, you can
I
reach
do.
out to me or any of our representatives and say, hey, what is this property going to do? And we do that for a lot of agents. We just pretty much do our research for you and give you a printout where we handpick the properties that Price Labs gives us, and we tell you, hey, if your client is going to buy this, is most likely going to make between this much and that much. If you want to make the top tier, it has to look like this. If you want it to be average, it's like this. Don't ever let it look like this because it attracts bad guests and it's going to make no revenue and it's going to be a bad investment. So we kind of give you all of the tools for you to make the right decision and look like an expert in front of your client.
That is awesome. Thanks, man. I appreciate you and that offer. So let's go. Let's talk about this amazing thing. The triumph, the 5-star review heaven here as we talk. Every short term rental, guys. Every short term rental is the engine behind the short-term rental is all those five-star reviews because that's what gets other people to click on and book it. So delivering consistent five-star guest experience is not a small feat, my friend. How have you operationalized hospitality to build trust and loyalty? Uh, and how did you get where you guys are? I think you don't even have anything under 5 stars. So
Yeah,
tell
I
me.
think we're doing pretty good. Okay, few things, right? First, I would like to take you back a little bit just so you can understand that this is not just an investment property. We have a huge responsibility, not just on the investor side, but also on the guest side. For example, we are hosting families every year who are saving for 2, 3, 4 years to save, let's say, $5,000, $10,000 to take their family of 4 or 5 to Disney or Universal or whichever park. Even in other areas we operate, they still save money, and it's a once in a lifetime trip for most families. That's something that I really want to highlight. So you have a huge responsibility. Imagine you and your wife and your kids saving for 3, 4 years and talking about that experience, and then getting here and arriving in a dirty house that has stains on the walls and it has old food in the fridge. How would you feel, right? It's gonna ruin your entire trip on day one as soon as you get off the airplane. So this is a huge responsibility, and I try to stress that to my team on daily basis and tell them how much responsibility they have in their hands. So now what do we do to avoid anything like this happening? It's all about systems. You need to have systems for everything. You need to have experience in the industry and know what are the things that can go wrong. And things will go wrong, especially in the short-term rental industry. You don't even know some of the things that will go wrong. There's so many variable things. But the goal is never to have the same mistake happening twice or 3 times. Then it's a big problem if you're letting the same mistake repeats. And number two, you need to have all hands on board immediately if an issue occurs, because guests really appreciate that. So most of the time, I'll explain how we turn a bad experience from a bad experience to a good experience, because that really happens very often. For example, they get in the house, everything is clean, is nice, the house has been prepared, staged, lights are turned on. If there's themed rooms, everything is nice and has the wow factor when you walk into the house, just like an agent says the home for an open house, for example. That's how we stage our homes. Now, let's say day two, the shower the shower breaks and you have a leak on the shower, so you can't really use that bathroom, and it's leaking in the on the tiles, and it's the master bedroom where usually the people who paid for the house are staying there. This is really a big problem. So how do you address that? You need to have a great relationship with your contractors, with your team, to be able to send someone there immediately and address that. Once you do that, you don't just stop there. You need to make it up, and you need to really explain and communicate to the guests, hey, this is what happened. We apologize for that. There was no way for us to foresee it, but what can we do to make this experience better? The issue is fixed now. Can we help you maybe bring your gift basket, or can we help you get discounted tickets for Disney, or can we give you a complimentary late checkout, or can we what can we do for you to make it happen, to make the experience better? And sometimes people don't ask for much. We have great guests, to be honest, and they'll just say, no, everything is great. I appreciate your help. And sometimes they'll ask for something. It doesn't matter, but people really are human and they appreciate someone who really cares about their experience. So at the end of the day, it really comes down to caring and being prepared and not let the same mistakes happen multiple times, and have systems. If this happens, we do this. If that happens, we do that. That's really the key, the name of the game.
It's awesome. I mean, offering guests, the top 5 star hotels do that, So if you guys have similar systems in place that a 5 star hotel does, and you cost 5,000 to 10,000 less than a 5 star hotel, I guess who I'm going to book with, that's the way we
Right.
do it, And I think that always giving back is a great way of defeating the bad experiences, like trying to offer a hand or a helping hand or anything like that in a situation like that, cheaper Disney tickets or anything what you mentioned was amazing. Like, oh, later checkout. Oh, that would be awesome. I have 2 kids and my flight's going at 8 p.m. I was at Virgin Hotels just not so long ago in Las Vegas, and I was there, and then I went to the front desk. It's like, hey, our flight's at like 10 p.m. And I have two kids, and could you expand our stay a little bit, like
Right.
a later checkout time? I said we're fully booked. Let me see what I can do. The first person said, not really. I can't. Maybe I could give you an hour. So she gave me an hour extra, and then the next person, they called me up. It's like, hey, you could stay till 1 p.m. I'm like, oh my
Hmm.
God, that just made my day because the baby sleeps between 11 and 1, you
Yeah.
know? So
Right.
it just helped us out so much that he was well rested for, 5 hour going around town, walking and driving and looking at stuff before we hit the airport. It just helps so much. And it just a couple hours, it makes so much difference for a person, especially with kids. It's just life changing sometimes. Like a well rested child is a well rested child, whoever says anything else. And it's just so good that you guys do that.
It makes a huge difference. And by the way, I'll share a quick trick that we have that we don't really share out there. The kids are really the people who make or break the experience. So a little trick that we have every time something bad happens is we'll go to the property and see if they have kids, and we'll ask them, "Hey, what's your favorite character?" Because we're
Oh,
in Disney, right?
yeah.
So they'll tell us Mickey Mouse or Stitch or SpongeBob, and we usually have some of those toys either in the van, in the maintenance van, or we have them delivered the next day with a little note for the kid. Well, that changes the entire experience because you not just listened and fixed the issue, but you also listened to the kid and cared about his favorite character and you gave him a little toy as a memory. So if the kid is happy, they're not going to leave you a 2-star review or a 1-star review.
Oh no. I mean, look, if you make my kids happy, you're getting a 5 star no matter what. Because the kids are, this is the
Exactly.
thing, they're the apple of your eye. You do everything for your kids. You're in Disney not because you wanted to go to Disney. You're in Disney because the kids, you're bringing your kids to Disney. So at that point, anything you do for my kid is like a 10 plus, like go above and beyond. That's what Tony Robbins always said. You gotta
Yeah,
create above and beyond experiences for clients, and that will come back tenfold in return.
of
It's
course.
just a little toy. Oh my God, like that's out of the box thinking. That's awesome. So next question is the future. Let's talk about that. What do you see coming next for short-term rentals in Florida, and how are you preparing your clients for it? Clients
That's a
meaning your property owners.
Yeah, that's a great question. Okay, it's a very loaded question though. There's a lot of things to unpack. So I'll quickly give you the overview right now of the short-term rental market. Orlando is the busiest vacation rental market in the country. We operate in other cities too, but Orlando really is the biggest and most competitive market in the country. There's so many homes, and they're very well made homes, meaning people invest a lot of money in the entire experience, the decorations, the renovations, everything. So competing in Orlando is not the same as competing in Ohio, let's say. So it's very different. That's the first thing we need to realize. The second thing is we have the most short-term rentals per square foot here. This means that the market is kind of overflowing right now. The builders keep building these huge communities with thousands of homes in each of them, new construction homes, and they're not cheap either. So it's hard for the investment to make sense if you buy at a premium price from a developer, brand new home. You still need to invest 20-30,000 to furnish and renovate the place and make it ready for as a vacation rental, and then you pay 6-7% interest rate in the current market. It makes it very hard to cash flow. So on the opposite side, the homes that were built, let's say in the late 90s, early 2000, the original vacation homes, they're actually in a slightly better location. They're closer to Disney because after the space run out here, they start building down towards the south part of Kissimmee and then Four Corners, Davenport, that area. So those homes, we see an opportunity there because they're outdated. So you can kind of flip a vacation home. You can buy an older home from the mid 90s or early 2000s, which actually it's better construction than the new homes because they're built more solid. And you usually have less headaches. If you change the main things like the roof, the AC, plumbing is usually good, electrical is usually good. Um, if you buy one of these homes and invest some money in it, it's much easier to cash flow. So they're cheaper than new constructions, same size, and they're closer to Disney. So this is one great way to flip a vacation home. Now, what I foresee in the next couple of years, there'll be more and more opportunities for cash buyers. Actually, I'm working on a deal right now for myself. I'm purchasing a small unit right behind our office here in Kissimmee, and we are purchasing under 30% of the asking price just because the market is so competitive and we're cash buyers. So if you have the cash, you can really get yourself a good year just because the market when it comes to sales is very slow currently in the Orlando area. There's a lot on the market. A lot of people got in trouble purchasing in 2023 and 2022 with high prices and high interest rates. So if you have cash, it's really a great opportunity right now to purchase. Um, what I foresee in the next few years, I think you just have to, going back to the numbers, you have to do your numbers right. It's still a good time to purchase. As long as you do your numbers right, there's deal to be found in every market, including in Orlando. And the best thing is Orlando is growing, it's improving. The planning of the city is becoming much better. For example, you know Miami a little bit. Vacation rental industry is seasonal, right? And it goes up and down. In Miami, the slowest months of the year used to be May and September, October, November. What did Miami do? Formula One in May, and then Art Basel in November, September, and October. They bring all of the DJs and festivals. So that really boosted those months, and they went great. So Orlando now is picking up on this, and they're seeing what Miami did, and they're trying to do the same thing in the slow months. So I think that the demand on the market will continue to grow just because of all of the parks that they're building, and you can still have some very successful vacation rentals as long as you don't go crazy when purchasing. Again, you make money when you buy. You have to run your numbers really well, and if you're confident in your numbers, go ahead and buy. Still a good time to buy. And yeah, I think that's a pretty good overview, specifically on the vacation rental market. What about you? What do you think? How do you see it from an outsider's perspective?
So I don't do a lot of vacation. I have friends that have vacation rentals here in Daytona and
Okay.
surrounding areas, and they said that they're cash flowing decent, for what they have, which is good. And they keep on purchasing 1, 2 units a year
Yeah.
to keep growing their portfolio. And I totally agree with them. But they have a really good mindset about it. Instead of having it sit vacant and have a high price to it, they lower the price to have it rented. Yep, just all the time. And I think that's one of the strategies you guys are really good at. Dynamic pricing, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Maybe you could elaborate on that a little bit for us, on how you guys do that and what kind of programs, what kind of tools, what do you use, and give us your insights on dynamic pricing to keep the to
Sure.
keep the places occupied. The occupancy rate is really important in our
Hmm.
industry, or your industry for sure. As in, if it's only 50% occupied compared to 75, 80, 90% occupied, that's a big difference.
Right. So dynamic pricing is very important. Why? Because let's say you have 50% occupancy. That's not good. That means you are overpriced in a lot of days and people booked other places instead of yours because they found competitors with the same house, same size for much cheaper than yours. So they booked theirs instead of yours. So that's not good. 100% is not good either because it means you're too cheap the whole time, meaning that your competitors are renting at, let's say, easy numbers, $100, you're renting for $65, $70, so 35% cheaper. So that's not good either because it's better to have, let's say, 75%, 80% occupancy with solid rates versus 100% with very low rates or 50% with high rates. So you really need to find the sweet spot and the balance. Dynamic pricing is really useful also when it comes to spotting events. So, our responsibility as property managers is to know what's going on in the area when it's, let's say, the car shows in Kissimmee, when are the big conferences that people from all over the world come here, so we can raise the prices for those. Well, dynamic pricing is a great tool because it kind of works like airline tickets. That's the best way to explain it. So, for example, let's say it takes a pool of 100 properties, which are the competitors in the same area, and it sees that 80% of those are booked for that specific flight or that specific date, right? Well, what it's going to do, the remaining 20% is going to jack up the price very high just so it can get booked less. Now, the system also remembers that for next year, and it knows, hey, last year for those days when that conference was happening, this is what happened. So we don't want to book in the first 80% for $100. We want to book in the last 20% for $175. So if you hold off until the end and have your price high, you can get to book for almost double price for what your competitors are booking. So that's great. On the other hand, one of the many great things about dynamic pricing is the low season occupancy. So, for example, here September and October are pretty bad, and you need to book in advance. Why? Because the demand for homes it's lower than the homes available, meaning there will be some homes empty at the end of the season when the month is over. On the other hand, in high season, there's more people trying to book places than there are places to be booked. So what you want to do is you don't want to keep your price high for the low season. You kind of want to drop below your competitors for the low season and get booked months in advance. Because what happens at the end is, at the end, everyone sees that the calendar is empty, so they drop the price as much as possible, and they either get booked for very small prices or they don't get booked at all. So you should book earlier. So these are some of the great things that dynamic pricing does, but very important to mention that's not just a software that you turn on and it runs everything automatically. It really needs someone to be hands-on, someone very analytical, look through the pricing and adjust it manually as well, based on what bookings you've gotten, what are your goals, and that's honestly my favorite part of my job. I really love numbers, as you've mentioned multiple times, and maximizing the returns of my investors really gives me a lot of satisfaction because we get to promise them some numbers and then overdo them with the help of dynamic pricing.
Yeah, I love that, man. Dynamic pricing is the way to go with an analytical manager because, as you said, it's not just about the pricing and how the software runs the pricing. If there's a right guy behind that, making sure adjustments are done right, because I was thinking about this. Okay, great. There are several programs out there. I can't think of any of them right now off the top of my head that I know my friends use one too that does the pricing for them. But does
Hmm.
that program always know that, hey, bike week's coming up, we should jack up our prices a couple weeks before so they don't book us earlier for a lower price, or
Yeah.
just black out those dates and come on market a couple weeks before the event and then come on market with a higher price for those weeks?
Funny enough, those are some great questions. Now we're diving a bit deeper. For Bike Week in Daytona, you need to be high on the prices more than a year in advance because people would book for 2025, 2026 because they come year over year, especially if you have a garage and you're nearby Daytona, they'll
Yeah.
book a year in advance. And customers are not dumb either. They love looking for deals. So they would be like, okay, this year we paid $200 a night. Let's check for next year. And oh, this plays $80 a night. Well, we're coming anyway. Let's just book it now, and they will book it. So for events like that, you need to be high on the price, like more than a year in advance. To touch on the second point of your question, it's never good to block out dates because the Airbnb and all the other website algorithms are punishing you when you block out dates. So they want to see that people are clicking on your listing and it shows available. The more eyeballs you get, the higher up they push you. So if you block out dates and you reopen them like a week before, that actually punishes you. It might work at one time or two time, but in the mid season and low season, your listing won't appear on page number one or page number two. It will appear on the last pages, which
Oh,
will really
wow.
hurt your income.
That is really interesting information. I didn't know that. That's really good. There's a golden nugget for everybody out there who is doing short-term rentals. Do not
Yeah.
have any blackout dates. So tell me if a new investor called you today with, let's say, give or take $500,000 in their pocket, where would you point them and why?
That's a great question. So again, first thing I would ask them is, what are your goals? Are you purely investing for cash flow, or are you planning to have a mix of everything? Are you trying to have as many tax deductions as possible? What really is your goal? And then I would give them a few different options for that price range, and I'll say, hey, this is our portfolio. We've been managing these homes for 2, 3 years, and they're in that price range. Take a look. This is what they did in 2023, 2024, 2025 up to now. and this is what we're expecting to do in the next year or so. So when you provide them with real numbers, they really feel more comfortable with making that decision. So for 500,000, you have different options. You can either buy a couple of smaller properties, or you can buy one big property. It goes down to the investor. It really depends, but I would rather do something similar to a multifamily like the one that I did, or a couple of smaller units. For example, the deal that I'm buying right now, it's a total investment about 100,000 for a little hotel room. It used to be a hotel, then they separated the titles, so now each room has individual titles, and you buy for about 100,000. The gross revenue of that home we're estimating to be about 35,000. Your expenses are about 15, 20,000. So at the end of the day, you have about 15, 16% return after paying HOA taxes, property management fee, and everything else, which for this market is crazy. So if somebody comes to me right now, this month, this is the best I have, I'll probably tell him go buy four or
Five of
five
those.
of those little ones. Yeah,
I mean, in my
exactly.
world, I do multifamilies a lot, and I like doing multifamilies, long-term rentals. The more doors, the better, my friend. That's what I always say.
Diversification, that's great, because something happens, your unit floods, the other one is still running and covers your cost. I love multifamilies for that reason as well. And it's less maintenance because let's say they're all under one roof, so you have one roof to
One roof, yeah.
change. Yeah. And I love the fact that you don't have HOA, because with HOA, you own the unit, but someone else is really in charge of it. So if they tell you, hey, you need to pay $25,000 assessment, or you're getting a lien on your property, you're gonna pay the assessment. With a house, if you have the money, you fix it. If you don't have the money, you keep going and you find a way to patch it up.
I mean,
Or a multifamily.
in your world, like a hotel motel conversion into short-term rentals, because they are short-term rentals. You know, the good thing is they're already zoned for it, so you don't have to worry
Yeah.
about zoning. Same thing like a multifamily. It's built for a short-term rental, but it's not like a house with multiple rooms. It's a one studio. It's like a studio apartment, basically. You'd have to convert them into studio apartments. Would that be a good investment in your world? Like converting a motel into a short-term rental uh, base?
Yes, definitely. Especially when it comes to multifamilies, you can get very creative. So I'll give you a quick example of a deal we're doing right now in Miami. We're buying a $1.4 million duplex, brand new construction, 5 bedrooms, 3.5 bathrooms on each side. And we are putting some money into furnishing it, decorating it. We're actually adding a rooftop, because it's one of those flat roofs. We can add a rooftop. We're gonna add a jacuzzi on the top, like a little bar area. We can see the sunset. It's gonna be really
Oh,
cool.
that's nice in Miami.
Yeah, we're building a pool in the back. So we're buying it for 1.4 million. We're putting about 150, 200,000, give or take, 1.6. And the comps are showing that immediately that place will be worth about $1.9 million. So immediately have a forced appreciation. At the same time, the place will be cash flowing like crazy because of the scarcity of the products. There are not many of those products, 5 bedrooms. And the great part is that you can even rent it as one 10-bedroom home, which in fact right now there's only 15 of them in Miami.
Wow.
Yeah. So for example, here in Orlando, you have thousands of 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 15 bedroom homes. Just it's crazy here. It's one of the biggest homes in the country. But in Miami, you don't have that, just because real estate is so expensive. So to be able to offer a 10 bedroom or rent them separately as 5 bedrooms is great. And the cash flow is great. The appreciation is great. If you just want to sell it 2, 3, 5 years down the road, it's great to do. And by the way, it's probably worth mentioning that how we started with that investor is with a small condo, and after that slightly more expensive condo, and then he's doing a 1031 exchange, rolling it into this third now big short-term rental property. So, and we're getting a great deal because we're buying it cash as well. It's all about being strategic, and again, numbers, 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 numbers.
We have to talk after this, and I might have to throw some money at you.
Yeah, maybe we
Hey,
should.
yeah. So what are like top three amenities guests expect to have in today's vacation rentals?
Okay, that's that you now you're getting at your best questions. Okay, the most important in my opinion and based on the industry is clean linens. It might sound so stupid and simple, but that's the most important thing. You go in a house and it's questionable if the linens were washed or not, you're having a bad experience. So this is why we use white linens everywhere. When it's white, you can see if it's clean, if you see if it's washed, you can see if it has any stains on it, if it's overused or if it's new. That's the number one thing. White bed sheets, white quilts on top, and white towels. Good quality stuff. Even the worst small vacation rental, a motel room, motel room would do well or much better if they have clean linens because you're comfortable sleeping in the bed, you're comfortable taking a shower. Cleanliness is very related to that, but cleanliness, it's very important. We really stress that. The cleaners are in a very difficult position because they have between 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. to like 4 p.m. to clean homes. And we have anything from a studio to, like I said, 15-bedroom homes. So sometimes it's one cleaner, sometimes it's multiple cleaners, a team. So it's very easy to miss some things. Well, our job is to inspect the home after the cleaner. So we have inspectors who go after the cleaners in case they miss something, they catch it and they fix it. Because the worst thing that can happen is you pay, let's say, $2,000 to stay in one of our properties for a week, and you get there, and let's say even if 4 of the 5 bedrooms are cleaned perfectly, one bedroom is bad. Then again, it doesn't matter if you clean 4 of them good, it ruins the experience. So cleanliness, and great communication. It's not specifically an amenity like you have to have a pool, you have to have a jacuzzi. Communication, it's an amenity because one of the most frustrating things is you get to a house, you cannot get through the gate or you cannot enter the door of your property, and your property manager is not getting back to you. It's a big problem. Now, if you have those three and they're given, then it's very interesting to think about other things like make sure the home is very well supplied. We have shampoos, conditioners, body soaps, everything that the guests will need at least for the first few days. Coffee is very important. Water, it's another great amenity which people don't really realize that. But when you get home after a 5-6 hour flight at 11 p.m. and you don't have water at the house, it could be very frustrating. So those are some of the small things that not many people think about. They're super important. And lastly, just to close it off, you need to be able to provide some kind of experience. That's a great thing. You can have just a sleeping space, and if you do your numbers right, it will do well. But if you can provide an experience, meaning, let's say my duplex that we mentioned, it's on a half an acre, it has a huge backyard, it's a great place to relax under the trees with a lot of lights in the backyard. So it's all about outdoors. It's all about clean internal space and being outdoors and enjoying the nature. For example, in Orlando, then we have the themed homes, which have every kid can stay in the room with their favorite character. We have Miami homes, which are amazing for corporate retreats, which you can have 10, 20 people going there on, let's say, an office party or bachelor parties, bachelorette parties. You really need to provide some kind of experience that they will remember, and this separates you from the rest, and it's equivalent to more revenue and happier guests.
Okay, so a recap on that clean linens. By the way, you're the second person I interviewed in the last couple weeks that's talked about clean linens. By the way, I had a interior designer that does short-term rentals down in the Keys, and she was really heavy on the clean white linens. Gotta have clean white linens. So clean white linens, shampoos filled up, having the small coffee and etc. You have to have those always ready and available for your clients. And then you said an experience. So experience as a third thing, some kind of themed room or a backyard with outdoor space, barbecue, etc., so they can do things, and that's the theme of the house, or it's part of the theme of the house. I think those are great points that you put out there for us. So I think we have a couple more questions here. Can you share a time when an underperforming property turned into a superstar under your management?
Yeah, that's a great question. That happens very often, unfortunately. That's the main reason why people switch to us compared to our competitors. And I'll give you a quick example, a real example. We had a 6 bedroom home. We have a 6 bedroom home in one of the nicest communities. great home, great location, nicely decorated. It just ticks all of the boxes. And then a bad property manager takes it and runs it down to the ground really fast. They never come to visit after the cleaners. The cleaners are different cleaners every time, so they don't know how the home is supposed to look. So they don't prepare the home well. They know that nobody's gonna check after them, so they don't really care about the cleaning. The property managers don't care about the home that much because many is one out of the many. Maybe don't have the systems to do it for whatever reason. So nobody goes there and nobody cares about the experience of the guests. So it's just like a money machine. So when guests get there, they have a horrible experience, which leads to bad reviews, which leads to them treating the home badly, which leads to then the next guest booking. You attract worse guests. The lower your ratings go, the cheaper your price gets because it's kind of like it's a down spiral, a spiral. For example, bad reviews attract bad guests. Bad guests give you even worse reviews and treat the home bad, which ends up being more bad reviews and more bad guests. So it goes down south very, very, very fast. So it took that home, which again, the owner did all of the right things, purchased the right place, the right price, the right location, did everything he could to make it nice for the guests, and then it was just very poorly run. So when we took over, it took us about 4 or 5 days. 3 of those days were deep, 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 deep cleaning. I'm telling you, all of the flat surfaces on top of like cabinets and things like that had about an inch of dust and old socks, and toys that kids threw there. It was bad. The cleaners were not very happy that I sent them to clean that home. But after 3 days of extensive cleaning, we also did some maintenance. We touched up the paint whenever needed. We fixed some things that were broken here and there. We got rid of a lot of the clutter in there because it was too many things that were unnecessary. And I always tell my owners, you want to provide everything that the guest needs and nothing more, because anything extra that you provide is just ends up being one more thing to break, one more thing to complain about. So you need to be very strategic in what you place in the homes. So after that quick 1 week, not even 1 week, 4 or 5 day transformation, we did our staging, our pictures, our videos. We put the home out there, and we were very, like we do with every property pretty much, we were very intentional about what we do next. So with the first 5 or 10 guests, we were on top of them probably a little bit more than we should to make sure that they're having a good experience. Hey, did you check in? Okay, is everything good? You have the instructions before checking in. Are you happy with the home? Anything we can do to make your experience better? We were on top of them all the time to make sure that the first 5, 10 reviews are amazing, and then the home just took off. Of course, we have all of our systems like pricing and everything else, but the home really took off, and it did more than twice as much in the next year they did with the old property manager for past two
Wow.
years.
That's
So last thing to add, in short-term rentals is very common to see your house and your neighbor's house, exact same decorations, exact same location. Your home does, let's say, 50,000. His home does 25,000 because it's poorly managed. It doesn't mean poorly managed by a property manager. It could be by himself. Um, it's just the property management is so important in this. The home that you pick is just as important as the partner, the property manager that you hire to run that investment for you. So you really need
totally,
to trust them.
totally agree to that. I've had some managers that were just there to rip us off or stuff like that, and I'm like, okay, what are these junk fees, cleanup fee, blah, blah, blah. And I go to the property and there's cans and stuff. I'm like, you just had the cleanup fee added and you said somebody came and cleaned the lot like like a couple days ago. And what are all these, stuff like that? That makes you feel like, oh, property managers, they're just there to collect their 10% or whatever. I mean, in your world, it's probably higher than that, but
Yeah.
in my world, it's about 10% for long-term rentals, and that's all they do. And then they charge you fees for this and that. And their maintenance crews are, not always the
Yeah.
best, they're not hiring professionals because they're trying to save you a buck, but make themselves a buck. So they have in-house guys that kind of think they know how to fix everything, and they send them out 3 times to fix the same issue, and you're like
The same
paying
thing.
for the third time for the same issue, and you're like, I could have hired a real plumber to go out there and fix that issue, and I would have paid him, 2 times the first price, and it would have been done, and I wouldn't have had to send out another person out there.
Right, right. And just to add something to this, the worst thing is not really the maintenance of the property either. If you have a bad property manager, you kind of get the full package of all the bad things that come with that. So one of the horror stories that happened, and that happened to the same house, the previous manager was obviously not managing the home well. He was not reporting the taxes with the county and the state properly either. So 3, 4 months after we started managing, we applied for all the license and everything else, but that triggered a flag for the owner and it's like, hey, what were you doing for the last 2 years of owning the home, a vacation rental, and not reporting or paying any of the taxes? So he got a lien placed on his property. And you
Wow.
get a lien placed on your property just because your property manager did not report any of your taxes. And what happened with those taxes? They pocketed them probably, and now the issue is on the owner. So you need to be very, very, very careful what type of property manager you hire, long term or short term. But long term is a little bit easier to switch them because let's say market value for the rent is 1500, you're going to get 1500, he's going to get 1500, they're going to maybe get 1600, a bit more, they're still going to charge you all the same percentage. Short term rental is slightly different. They can mess up your revenue significantly. What you can do with one property manager is not what you're going to do with another property manager. And second, there's a lot more reporting involved, and if they don't handle that professionally, you can be in a lot of trouble. So not just ruin your investment and be negative in cash flow, you can start having problems with the government going after you for not paying taxes, and that's going to hit you back as one big bill because you're not getting away from it.
Oh, for sure. And they always get their money.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
government always gets paid. So, for investors worried about short term rental regulations, how should they be preparing for anything like that?
Right, that's a great question. So, one of the very first questions you should ask is, are there any restrictions? Is this property allowed to do short-term rentals? And then you cannot just trust, you should trust your agent if you've worked with them before or if they know they're specialists in the area, but you should also take some responsibility since you're putting a lot of money into this investment and check yourself as well. So the best thing to do is call the county and say, hey, my home is in this location. Is it allowed to do short-term rentals or not? What are the restrictions? Is it 1 day minimum, 1 week minimum, 1 month minimum? You know, as you go to Miami, there's some crazy rules. You have the maps where you're allowed versus where you're not allowed. You have the maps where you're not allowed, but you're grandfathered in and you can still do it with specific properties. So your responsibility is to check number one with the county, number two with the HOA, if there is an HOA, and number three, you get to check if the property is currently run as a short-term rental and if they have all the appropriate licenses. That's if you do that, you're pretty much covering your back. Now, restrictions are getting stricter in bigger cities, which were not necessarily built for this, and the neighborhoods where this is happening is not designed for that and is bothering the people who actually live there. So you need to make sure that you're updated on the restrictions from the county where the property is located. What kind of zoning do you need to operate as a short-term rental? And you should be all right. Now, Orlando is a very different market. We're pretty much living off vacation rentals, so here it's much easier. We don't have any issues. Other cities like St. Pete, Tampa, Miami are very strict. So you need to really work with an expert agent who have sold this type of properties and works with a good property manager who can guide you through not just where you're allowed to, but also what's the day-to-day operations and is it easy to run that property? Because, for example, I'll give you a quick real life example in Miami. There's a building in Brickell which was built to be a vacation rental building, and on paper you're allowed to manage there and you're allowed to do short-term rentals, but in reality the HOA takes 3 months to approve you as property manager or to switch you between the previous owner to you, and they're doing that on purpose because they're trying to push you to go with them on their hotel program rather with a third-party property manager. So if you've never worked in that building or if you don't know an agent who knows these things, you're going to get like into that building thinking that you're okay and then quickly discover that what you're expecting is not really what's happening in reality. So work with local professionals who know their market, and that's your best insurance policy against restrictions that can ruin your investment.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Alberto Nikodimov isn't just managing properties, he's building legacies, one vacation memory at a time. If you're serious about scaling your income and creating five-star experiences that lead to repeat business, Alberto is someone you want to in your corner. Want to know what your property could earn? Head over to www.trymemories.com for a free vacation home analysis. You'll get real numbers, real insights, and a roadmap to short-term rental success. Be sure to follow Alberto and his team on Instagram, Memories Vacation Homes, on Facebook, Memories Vacation Home Management, YouTube, Memories Vacation Homes, and on LinkedIn, Memories Vacation Home Management. And if you liked today's episode, leave us a review, hit the subscribe button, and share this with someone who's ready to turn their next property into a profit-making powerhouse. Thank you for listening. Alberto, thank you for coming on the air with us. This was great and really insightful. Thank you for joining us on Sir Lancelot's Real Estate Roundtable, where we've unveiled the mysteries of real estate together. Remember, in this kingdom of possibilities, every dream home is just a discussion away. I can help your real estate dreams come true. Just call me at 786-449-7518. Until our next roundtable, may your ventures be prosperous and your homes be filled with love and joy. Farewell, fellow knights of real estate.